Welcome to Glazed Over,
a podcast for business tips, painting tricks, and gabbing with friends.
We're your hosts, Amy Williams
and Christine Steele, and we're so glad you're here.
Hey, Christine.
Hi, Amy. How are you today?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. I have to say, it's one of those days I woke up and actually had my cup of coffee, and I'm doing great.
Love to hear that. Love to hear that. I also love to hear that our guest today is someone that everyone is already really excited about. When we float this episode out to the masses, people are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Release it early, all that good stuff. I'm putting so much pressure on her on accident, but we may as well bring her in now because we've got so much to talk about. We have Lori Neff from As You Wish in the episode today. I was going to say in the building, but she's not quite in my building.
No.
She's in my little Zoom window. Hi, Lori. How are you?
Hey, good. Thanks for inviting me. This is so fun. As you guys know, I love talking about As You Wish, and I love this industry. So I am ready to share.
You are the busiest person I think I know. So I feel very grateful that you've carved out a little bit of time for us this morning. And just a little peek behind the curtain. It's 10 a.m. me and Christine's time, but Lori's in California. So it's 7 a.m. her time. So she's really up and at it and ready to give this morning. So
now, some people might be confused. They're like, wait a minute, California. Yes, I am in Arizona, but I do exactly California right now. Yes.
Thank you. And I was going to say, for the 3 or 4 people that don't know who you are or don't know who As You Wish is, could you give us a little bit of background on who you are, on your business, how long you've been in business, what you do, all that good stuff?
Yes. Okay. So As You Wish has been in business for 29 years this last September. Yes.
Wow. Amazing.
So if people think this is just a fad, it is not. You can definitely make it a viable business. But I just have to say that probably the most important thing with that is you have to be flexible and your customers change and you have to change along with it. So we would not be here if we didn't change. If you're not willing to change, you're not going to make it. And some people just get stuck in their ways. And, there's one thing that's constant, and that's change. That's where my staff, they know what's next. So my husband and I, we bought As You Wish in 2007. And so it's been 17 years. And we're excited next year. We're already planning the 30-year celebration of As You Wish being in business. And currently we have 10 stores. Sadly to say, we're actually here. I'm in California right now because we're closing our Palmdale store. And that's actually a good thing. It didn't really recover from COVID. Everybody knows that. It was an inside mall dying area, but it's okay. Sometimes you have to be willing to know when is a good time to do that. So we have closed stores, we've moved stores, we've opened new stores, you name it, we've probably done it.
How large would you say your team is?
You mean staff-wise? Okay,
I know, tough question.
I know. Okay, so with California, I would say probably 105 employees.
Wow. Your structure is special because you have an executive team and then you have sort of staff or in-studio staff or however you would call that. And how big is that executive team?
So our executive team right now, okay, do you mind if I count on my fingers?
Please, I would love it.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 8.
Nice. Okay, great.
Yes.
So we're kind of bringing you in today to have a conversation about how to train your staff, how to trust your staff, how to literally be able to leave your studio and feel at peace and know that you have capable people there working. And we really wanted to hear from you because, again, you're incredible. You've been doing this for quite some time, but you do have many stores and you physically can't be in every store. I feel like you are the embodiment of work on your business versus working in your business. And so we want to hear a little bit about that today. What is your role, would you say, kind of within As You Wish? I mean, we know owner, but how often are you in the studios, if ever?
I think the if ever part is probably, more like it. I am not in the stores very often at all. As a matter of fact, now that I don't do human resource, I walk into the store and I don't even know half the people that are there anymore. And they likewise, they're probably like, oh, if I don't walk in with my As You Wish shirt on, they're like, oh,
right.
Like,
who is this nice lady?
Can I help you today?
It's kind of nice because then I can kind of be the secret shopper for a millisecond until I start talking. Then they realize, oh, wait, I know who this is. But you know what? My role with As You Wish has obviously changed because when we bought the business, it had 4 stores already.
Mm.
And I never really started off working in the store every single day, like most people do. But as you can imagine, I had to hit the ground running with 4 stores because let me just share with you this story that is just so funny to people, right? So we bought the stores, and 1 week later, we found ourselves at convention with the previous owner, right? Because she had already committed to teaching some classes. So I'm walking the supplier floor, and I looked at her and I said, Michelle, everybody keeps talking about this stuff called bisque. What is that? And she said, she looked at me, I think probably in horror in her eyes, like, what have I just done? And she's
Oh
like,
my
that's what you
gosh.
sell. And I'm like, oh, dear Lord, I have got a mountain to climb.
That's so funny.
And climb that mountain we did. So,
Yeah. I mean, but what a great motivational bit that you can
Yeah.
yes.
start there and be as you wish,
Well, that's when you realize we have our own little language,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
it was actually really good for me because when I talked to the staff, I explained to them you can't talk in Pottery people talk to your
Yes.
customers because they don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
So that was actually a really good experience for me coming in from the outside to the inside. But so
Hmm.
now my role is I basically manage the marketing department, which consists of our marketing director, our PR and social media director, and then our custom artist. And then I also oversee our chief operating officer, which is Jared. And then I also do all of the finances still. I am not ready. That is the last bit of relinquishing. Yes. We are positioning ourselves to definitely pull back. And this year was a big pullback for me, and it's gone well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
What's your background before you bought the businesses?
Great question.
Oh, coincidentally, human resource and finances. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm,
Yeah. Just the same
interesting.
exact thing that I do now.
Yeah. So I imagine that to be able to do all of this, right, you have to have excellent training. And
Hundred
I'm lucky to have known 2 of your executive team members for quite some time. So I know that you have an impressive training regimen for your staff. And I just want to kind of dive in just a little bit here. Let me ask you a simple question. What does your training program look like for your studios?
You say that's a simple
I know,
question.
I know. Well, I was going to ask a really big one, but I was like, let me start at step 1 here. What does
Yeah.
it look like? How, yeah.
Okay. So let me just tell you, before you can even have a training program, I feel you have to have policy and procedures. If you don't have policy and procedures, your staff will make up their own. I
Yes.
assure you that will happen. But it works for us that having policy and procedures broken down into sections, this really helps when needing to update. And it also helps when you need to refer back to them. Now, we keep our written policy and procedure in Dropbox. And that way, our staff can always just search like dress code and then it'll come
Mm.
up or things like that. But when we're training, we actually then start with step 1. And that the very first thing in ours is like the state and federal law requirements, like sick time, defining pay
Mm.
periods, scheduling, discrimination, things like that. And then we go into, like I said, the staff expectations, which would be like dress codes and showing up on time, all of those fun things. So we get all of that out of the way because if they don't want to stay on with us after day one to me would be like, ooh, these are the expectations. It's time for you to go right now.
All right.
Let's not even delve into the rest of it. So I set this expectations up front. And that's every day is probably about 3 to 4 hours. You can only drink from a fire hose for so long. And I think also the important thing when you're training people is you can't expect them to grasp all of it at once. You'll be like, look, we went over this. Why can't you remember? Oh, let's see. You just went over 5,000 things with me in one day.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to give them some grace, just like we expect that too. Nobody's perfect, but it's a constant thing of training. So then the next day we'll go into customer service and selling and hosting birthday parties. And when I say we do training, we also do where you're going to role play.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
We role play. So, and whenever I role play customer service, I give them the most challenging situations, right? So I think that's so important because you can't just go, "Hi, how are you today?" And then
Right.
they are going to end up with some off the wall questions. So I'm going to start off with off the wall questions, knowing that they don't know those, but then it gives me the opportunity to tell them those. And it gives them that safe space where when someone does ask a question, they're feeling, "Hey, I'm feeling pretty confident. I know what that is."
What's your favorite off the wall question to ask that you just get that look of what?
Oh gosh. Okay, that I might have to think about that one for a minute. Yeah, let me put a pin in that one and I'll
That's
have to think
good.
Okay.
of it. Yeah,
Can
because
now
that
my
means
turn to ask who's expected to do the training? Is it everyone or is it always the manager?
typically, well, the manager is responsible for the training of her staff.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have like an amazing glazer loader,
Yeah.
then I'm okay with that happening. Now, when it comes to like customer service and selling, I expect the manager to do that training
Mm.
because she has to level set expectations. But like project day, that comes right after customer service. So if you can imagine when you're training someone, right, you just hit them with the meats and potatoes of these are our expectations. And now you're going in with the expectations of customer service and selling and hosting
Mm-hmm.
birthday parties. Now we put in a nice, wonderful project day where they're like, "Oh, I just need a minute,"
Right. That's
right?
so smart to not start with the art because our business is not
Yeah.
art
Nope.
first. It's customer service, it's selling, it's cleaning,
Yeah.
it's all the stuff that's not very fun.
Absolutely. Yep. So when I do interviewing, which isn't anymore, but when I did, and I would say, "Why do you want to work for As You Wish?" And if they say, "Oh, well, I like painting and I like art," I was like, "Okay, well, here we actually unpack boxes, we
Mm.
sweep, we mop, we clean
Hmm.
dishes." Yeah. So if they give me that look of what, and I'm like, "Okay, you're next." But then, so that project day, we have some fantastic artists that are within our stores. So I am okay with somebody else leading that. And
Mhm.
we'll get into this a little bit later, but we have videos that go with everything. So at least we have the minimum is being taught. These are exactly what I want you to know, and everything else is fluff and extra. And we'll get into why I did that. But so anyway, we have project day. Then we let them work on the floor for a little bit, right? Let's let you figure out this customer service. Let's implement, all of these things that you learned, and then we'll go into register. And that always freaks people out.
Yeah.
I have to answer the phone and do register. Oh my gosh, now I feel like I am on. Then we let that marinate for a little bit. And then we go into our merchandising standards and how to process shipment. And if you don't process shipment correctly, inventory is going to be off. So we try to bring in like the full circle of everything and the why we do things because everyone feels that they have a more efficient way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, if you don't set the expectations and have the procedures in place, they're going to make up their own. And they still like to try and make up their own.
Yeah.
But it gives us the, opportunity to pull them back to training and say, just remember, this is how we do that. And
Yeah.
then we finish it off with glazing and loading. And I firmly believe that every single staff member needs to be trained on everything.
And so if they are training for 3 to 4 hours max a day, how long is this process?
So I give our managers a month to turn in the training guide. And the reason I give
Oh,
them a month is because not everybody can work full time, right? Some people,
exactly.
they might be able to work 2 days a week, but I also want them to be able to fill in working on the floor in there. So we have done some experiments with training, and it just doesn't seem to be as solid of a training when they go from beginning to end. And I'm just going to train you every single day. And then now you're going to go on the floor. That's just too much.
Want more customers to find your Fired Art studio? As a CCSA member, you'll get a prime spot on our CCSA Studio Locator, a tool designed to help customers discover you. Your studio's contact info and online links will be featured on our website, which gets 3,000 hits per month. That's a lot of potential customers looking for creative experiences just like yours. Whether it's parents planning a pottery party or someone looking for a fun day out, the CCSA Studio Locator helps them find their way to your door. It's a simple but powerful way to boost your visibility and grow your business. Join CCSA today and make sure your studio is on the map. Visit ccsaonline.com for more details.
You mentioned training guide. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
let me just kind of go into our actual training and how it's morphed over time, if I can do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we first bought As You Wish, everything was paper. And I remember making my way through this, I don't even know how many, 200-page binder of policy and procedures going, what the heck? So I mean, it was fantastic information, but that definitely didn't lend to lots of learning styles. And some people, you just kind of zone out when you're reading this blah, 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 blah. Oh, and then make sure you clock in, blah, 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 blah. It
Right.
just gets to be so much. And then we were ending up with managers trying to cut corners and things like that. So when we opened our sixth store, we thought, okay, we have to regroup because I can tell that we were doing inconsistency in trainings and it depended on what the manager's focus was. So that's when I decided, okay, we have got to do this through video and through a learning management system. So I painstakingly took on that task. It was a lot of hours. It was
I
a lot of hours
bet.
because I was learning how to work this program, but it worked out really well because then you had videos, you had audio. So I would read the text. So if you had some people that wanted to read, they could. If they wanted to listen to it, they could listen to my voice.
That's
We also had
amazing.
videos
Yeah,
in there.
that's
We have
very thoughtful.
quizzes. And if they did not pass the quiz, then they had to go back and take it again.
Nice.
Okay.
So we did that. And then the training guide has always been in place, but that went along with it. So, for example, when I say that day one is just employee orientation, after they're done going through that day's information, then the manager sits with them and then they recap. And there's just kind of like bullet points under, like, say, orientation. And then they talk about all of those different bullet points. And if they have any questions, they have the opportunity to ask questions. The manager has an opportunity to clarify different things or stress certain points. So at a minimum, they are learning what I want them to learn. So then our learning management system that we were using dropped the bomb on us and told us, oh, P.S., by the way, we're no longer going to support this. So you need to find
Oh,
a new
no.
platform. And I'm like, do you know how many hours of my life
Oh my God.
So, but we used it for maybe a couple years. And then finally I was like, okay, we have to think about a different way to do this. So we actually have a different website that we use. So we use WordPress website for our main website. Then we just created a different website, and through WordPress, you have plugins. And so we did a plugin for a learning management system. And then I put Liz in charge of that. So,
I remember it well.
yes,
But that's,
so
that's so genius because it's like, we'll just go here, instead of
yes.
trying to upload to YouTube or make another Dropbox and keep all that up to date. Like, I mean, it's so streamlined. It's so nice.
Well, and we can have our quizzes in there. We can
Right.
have, and so now it's Liz's voice instead of mine, right? So now she does the reading. There's also the words, the text that are in there. We also have videos on most every page, and there's the quizzes, like I mentioned. So then when we went to that, we also have a workbook that we did. Now that kind of sounds pretty intense, but it's actually, maybe like 10, maybe 12 pages, and it's front to back. And that's something that they get to keep, because I noticed on their training guide that they were writing all of these notes. Well, we take the training guide and it goes in their employee file. So I was like, you know what? They need something that they can keep their notes on. So we created this workbook, and it actually has little bits of information that they tend to forget along the ways. So that has worked out really well, and they can keep that workbook.
What information do you think, or do you find that they're forgetting? Just an example of one.
Well, the greeting. Yeah. So
Oh, sure.
you have to greet
smart.
within 10 seconds. So
That's smart.
it'll say, just a reminder, you have to greet within 10 seconds. And when I was doing training, I would literally sit there for 10 seconds so that they know how long 10 seconds is. It
Right.
used to be 30 seconds when we first bought As You Wish. To them, they're
That's
like, oh my
a
gosh,
long time.
it is a long time. But they didn't think that it was until you sit there in silence.
And I
then
think the internet has changed that. Our patience is so much lower than it used to be. So 10 seconds is an eternity.
Well, they say that what the attention span of a goldfish is 7 seconds, and ours is worse than that.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Mine used to be 30 seconds and I had to change it to 10. So I'm
Yeah.
glad. Yeah, it
Yes.
was, I actually did the same thing where we sat down and I was like, okay, let's count. And then they're like, oh, that feels awkward. I'm like, I know,
Yes.
that's my point.
Well, so okay, this is my point from the beginning, right? Is you have to change because your customers are changing. They're used to
Exactly.
instantaneous gratification right now. I mean, let's just be real. If the internet doesn't respond within 0.01 second, we're like, what is wrong with this? Is the internet out?
Do you find that you're having to update any of your systems and policies or training information often, or does it kind of
Um,
stay the same for a while?
It has stayed the same for a while. I would say that like we've had to update like tips when we started accepting tips and all of the procedures around tips, and so that they fully understand how they're shared and they need to report cash tips received. I would say every now and again there's just a little bit of something that needs to be clarified, but not very often. In the beginning there was, because I went through the procedure book with a fine tooth comb, and I really think that everyone should do that every now and again. So then every like 2 years or so, I would reread it. I know that sounds miserable, right? But imagine if you think, oh, this sounds miserable, what your staff think.
Right.
So I just have to make sure that, yeah, that everything is exactly how we want it. And I tell my staff, one thing is constant is change. And so it doesn't surprise them when we have an update, because I don't call them changes, I call them updates.
How do you roll out those updates? Is it through the website and everyone is, it's mandatory for them to kind of go through that process again?
Well, so it depends on what the update is, right?
Sure.
So like when we switched, we had the devil of time trying to get this dress code thing down, and now I feel like we've got it nailed down, but man, was that
I
was
bet.
rough. That was rough. So we used to have the full aprons, which I loved. And then they could wear whatever they wanted underneath. Then I moved to white t-shirts. Then it's interesting how you have to define, don't wear a leopard skin bra underneath your very thin white shirt. And
Right.
why do I have to even explain this? Our dress code changed a little bit because then I finally went to this purple shirt with as you wish on the front. You can't see through it. It's super soft. The neck isn't buggy. And then we went to half aprons. That's what I mean. They're just like little updates. Okay, here's an update to our dress code. Now we're in the little half aprons, and then, they have to have their name tag on their left shoulder. And so that hasn't changed now for a while. And part of our dress code, by the way, is smiling. That's part of the dress code.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's in the
Yeah.
manual. Those are kind of the things that I say need to be updated. Our parties have pretty much stayed the same because they're so fun. So every now and again, there's just something. But, when you've really got glazing and loading nailed down, yeah.
So would you say that your training program is pretty effective? I would imagine. I know, like, what a silly question after all of that.
Define effective. You know what? Absolutely. I do. And this is why I think it's effective, because they know the expectations. And to evaluate the effectiveness, we have our managers, like I said, go over the training guide. So they had the opportunity to ask any questions at the end of every single day. Then we also have a 30-day evaluation. And that gives the manager the opportunity to go in and say, okay, let me just see how well they're doing. Now, do I want them to wait till 30 days to do the coaching and developing? No, I'm hoping that they do that along the way. But because each of our stores have between 12 and 15 staff members, sometimes after they're done being trained, that manager may not see them again for a minute. So they do have to get some feedback from our supervisors or other people they work with to schedule themselves intentionally with them.
Yeah.
But when I say evaluation, it's also an opportunity for the staff member to evaluate us. It's like, okay, what do you think? How do you think things are going? Do you think that we missed anything during the training? And this is also an interesting opportunity that they say, oh, well, I've noticed that Jack doesn't do this the way that you trained me. You're like, really?
Oh.
Jack. Yeah. So it should be a very open conversation. Sometimes when you put the word evaluation in there, people get a little bit nervous, and it's a great opportunity for everyone, just an open space. And you also know, usually you're going to know before 30 days if this is going to work out.
Yeah, that was my next question is what does that process look like? I mean, I'm sure you make it very upfront that if this isn't working after a month, you're out kind of thing. Are they signing that information? Like, how does that process go?
Well, so we are we're out to work or at will.
Right to work. Yeah.
Yeah,
Same.
at will. But we have let people go after a week. I've let people go after like 2 days. I'm like, I can tell this isn't going to work out. You're not even
Yeah.
paying attention. My philosophy is be slow to hire and quick to fire, because if you already know it's not going to work out, why go through the entire process? So there was one time though that I did, it was probably, I don't know, day 3 or whatever. And I had trained this gal for the last, I think I started training. So for 3 days. And when she came in for the next day, and it's very rare that I do training, but this was several years ago, and I was training like 3 people together. And when she came in, I said, "Can I speak to you for a second?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "I noticed that when I'm talking, seem to be not paying attention. So I just want to make sure that you understand that it's expected that you know all of the things that we're going over." So that's when she said, "Well, I have ADHD. I seem to be distracted, but I'm grasping everything that you're saying." And I'm like, "Okay, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page." And she worked with us for a long time. But to me, I was like, "You're not even paying attention when I'm speaking to you." But I needed to have that conversation with her. And it was good for me to know that she had ADHD, because then we kind of just curtail things a little bit different, maybe more sticky note with like, "Oh, here's a list of the things that you need to do." But that helped. But she turned out to be a great staff member, but level set expectations. It's not
Yep.
looking to me like you're paying attention, sis. What's
Yeah.
going
And that goes back to you talking about the difference of your video training and the audio. Like everyone learns differently and everyone looks like they're learning differently. And it's smart that you just had the conversation very casually. I think so many people are afraid to just
Yeah.
say the thing and it gets really big. I see on Chatter like, "Oh, my employee
Yeah.
needs to use deodorant. Like, how do I tell them?"
That's
It's like you just gotta do it. The longer you take, the bigger it gets. And it's not good.
No, and you don't have to make it awkward.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
for somebody that is a newer studio and they don't have the experience of HR, which I am definitely that person. And I personally struggle with firing people. I struggle with, I want to like everyone and I want them all to like me. So I am not very good in this role. I think that CCSA offers some training checklists and stuff, but where do you recommend starting this? Like, how do you even begin?
Okay. Okay. So I love amazingness. I'm gonna keep that in the back of my mind. I'm gonna fill my cup up with that if you don't mind.
Yes,
Um,
please. Absolutely. I'll say it anytime. You just give me a call.
okay. So you know what? You have to train yourself and you have to learn. So we do actually have a membership at prior.com, and you can get it, I think, for $199 or $299 a year. And I feel like that is a great place to start. And there are so many videos and online training and in-person trainings. And even if you just take 1 hour, maybe a week, maybe you go, "This is learning Friday. Fridays are my learn days," or whatever it is. And you have to continuously learn yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to grow, and neither is your company or your staff. You would be amazed the things that you learn from those, even if you get just one nugget. So I am a very big of a proponent for continuous learning. Sometimes my staff just want to roll their eyes like, "Ugh," you know. So in our manager meeting, every single month, we have an HR training at the beginning of every single month. At the beginning of that meeting. Then we also have for our managers, and when I say managers, you can also include yourself in this. So if you go, "Oh, you have an HR training, maybe I need to make sure I have one for myself every single month."
Mhm.
And then we also will carve out twice a year for a manager training. And that is an all-day training. It's usually 2 days. One day is all-day training. The next day is usually philanthropic and then like a team build fun thing. So work hard, play hard, right? But then even for you could carve out one whole day and just say, "You know what? I'm going to spend this entire day on learning. It all depends on what we feel like the managers need, but it could be coaching and developing. It could be, and that goes into like writing performance discussion records, how to deliver those. We can do role playing, and you can do that yourself. And if you're close to, like, maybe you have a friend that likes to do role playing, and you'll be like, okay, I'm going to give you a scenario and I need to coach and develop you or whatever. If it's just you, right? If it's just you, because that could be challenging if it's just one person.
Yeah.
But by the same token, there are so many things on YouTube. There's so many things like this prior videos. There's thousands. They have thousands and thousands in there. And then now, for, I would say in 2021, I started going to SHRM conferences. So that's the Society of Human Resource Management. That's an international association. And after COVID, my staff changed. They changed. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do with you guys right now. Like, like this whole mental health and this and that. And I'm like, I need to learn myself. So that was the first time. I had been a member for a long time, but Jared and I, we went to Vegas. Everyone was still wearing masks, but you know what? There was 8,000 people at that conference, and there was 18,000 people virtually, because people are like, help me navigate through this changing world. What is happening? So then we've gone to those conferences every year. They're usually in the summertime. Now I've pulled back because our district manager and Jared is our chief operating officer, and she reports into him. And now they go by themselves. But this helps you to stay up with what's going on with staff, right? You don't have happy staff, you're not going to have happy customers. No happy customers, no money, right? That's how it goes. So I would say you have to purposely train yourself. Then I also do training for our marketing department, and you can look for training. You have to look outside of things to help you train yourself. So the CCSA does provide some great opportunities. Sometimes it's really cool to just get a different perspective. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And there's so many things virtually now. You don't have to spend all the money to fly. And a lot of times with some of these, you'll get like the whole year that they give you to be able to go back and rewatch the videos. And I just think that you definitely have to make the opportunity to learn, because then that's going to make you a better business owner, and if you do end up with a manager, it'll help you to be able to train your manager, and you're going to end up with a better company all around. So you have to train, and we will assign training to each manager through the prior. Depends on what their needs are. Like, I have one particular person that is fairly new to the company. I would say within probably a year and a couple months, tends to be more of an introvert. We did lots of seminars on communication.
It is prior, PRIOR.
No.
Okay.
PRYOR.com. And so that was, and books. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
And the best book ever is Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And it's all small stuff. You don't even have to read the book. I just told you.
Thank you.
You saved us some time. Love that.
Yes. Well, and then Who Moved My Cheese? If you're going to make lots of training, I had managers read Who Moved My Cheese right before we made a bunch of changes, because they get stuck in their rut. And especially if they're like, wait a minute, you need to get on board.
Yeah, change. Exactly.
And I think that it's fascinating because I know personally my we have a manual, and it changes depending on the experience that I had, whether I'm firing somebody or somebody has left. I mean, I laugh about this, but I didn't know that I had to put my manual. You can't smoke marijuana while on the clock. Weird. I didn't know that was something that I needed to put in there. And it's something that, like, I'm like, you know what? And I laugh because to me, I'm like, to be fair, it wasn't in there. So you didn't break any rules, but it's just funny how you have to pivot while we're all learning. I feel like at any moment, we don't know. I mean, there's no crystal ball to make sure you have everything. So
and things change constantly.
Yeah, I love this talk about extended education for everyone, because we're asking these people to invest in our business with their time and their energy, and we need to also invest in it just as much. I am so bad about being very stuck in my ways, being very, can't see the forest through the trees. And so it's nice to say, okay, just take one day a month and learn something new that would help.
Well, and people, they say, well, what if I invest all this time and money in them and they leave? But what if they don't?
And you
What
just
if
don't
they
know.
don't? Yeah. I mean, my
Yes.
executive team has been here 10 plus years, except for Zach, who just, came on. It's a long time. What if they don't? And then you're setting them up for success for the next,
Mhm.
job. But we also do semi-annual staff training where everybody comes together. And usually that's a reminder of customer service and selling and those expectations and how to make it easy because it's all about the experience.
I think it's the dream to have an executive team. I'm curious when that came. Like, did you come out of the gate with one? Like, when did you implement that?
Okay, well, let's see. When Scott and I bought the business, there was a buyer and there was a district manager. So I guess you could say that there was an executive team ish per se. And then things morphed because that was pre Facebook, I want you to know.
Yeah,
So,
right. 2007.
yeah, this is when
Oh.
marketing consisted of mail and print in
Mhm.
magazines.
Oh,
Okay. Email, when we first bought the business, I still remember we had 2,500 emails, which might sound like a lot, but they had 4 stores, right?
right.
Then it was email started just really taking hold. And that's when it really became more apparent to me through probably, I say, the first year or so that we really needed a marketing person. But we didn't really have the money for a marketing person. And so we had to keep learning and growing. And that's how I learned a lot myself as well.
Yeah.
So I really did. But I just had to make it a goal. That's when constant contact was coming into play. So if this just goes to show you how long ago that was, okay, I'm totally dating myself, but it's okay. We all know. We all know I'm in my 50s. It's fine. But we made it a goal. I was like, okay, email is so much cheaper to market to, right? So the goal was to capture as many emails as possible. And we grew from 2,500 emails to over 100,000 in just like a 2-year period.
That's amazing.
It just has to be your concerted efforts, right?
Mhm.
But they have to be positive. You can't just do cram down with staff, but you also have to have a way to be able to measure that. You can't just have goals and not be able to measure it. So if I ask the staff, I'm like, okay, I get it. Some people don't have emails or they don't want to give it to you. So I gave them a certain percentage that they were allowed to not have. And every single week, we still continue to pull those stats and we're like, okay, you guys have too many without. And a lot of times it tends to be the new hires that are
Sure.
nervous.
Scared to ask. Exactly.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that makes
And
sense.
so you get right on top of it and you're like, hey, Jack, and I just use Jack. I hope nobody has a Jack. I don't have a Jack. I'm just saying that. Yeah. But just a reminder, you had 25 transactions last week that didn't have any emails. Let's work through this. Tell me what's your apprehension there,
Mhm.
things like that. It was seeing a need. And as the world changed, marketing became a lot more robust with social media, and Facebook obviously is where it started, and with the ads. And so it just kind
Yeah.
of morphed. It just kind of morphed into that.
Can you talk a little bit about incentives with your staff?
If we want to start with the employee staff, we have several different ways. So we started this a couple years ago and it's called Motivosity, basically like motivate. And it's kind of like a social media-ish with recognition. So we have it all tied to our core values, and every single person in the company gets $5 that they can award to someone else. And they can do it in dollar spend. They can then also award the money that they get as well, or they can redeem it for gift cards or what have you, right? Because I think it's important, the bigger that we grew, that our staff members need to recognize the other staff members for
Yes.
things that they're doing right. The managers get $15 a month that they can do that with. And that made a huge, huge difference. And they all have to be tied, like I said, back to a core value. So it can't be like, hey, man, I really like your hair today. Okay, that's cool, but that's not going to be a reward, right? So they have to pick a core value that it goes with. And I love watching them recognize each other. And that creates a great culture within your studio. And so that's one reward. Then we do have pottery bucks that they can get, and they can use those to purchase items in the store, or they can turn them in for cash on their paycheck. So we have that.
Smart.
How do they get the Pottery bucks? Is that the same system?
Nope. So that is based on if the studio reaches their sales goal, then the store gets a certain amount and then they give them out based on percentages of
Nice.
hours worked. They can also give it to them just for doing something like super great, but that kind of, they don't do that much anymore because we have Motivosity in there. But then we also have a quarterly dollar amount that we give each studio to be able to use for sales games and awards. So like if you win the sales game, you get this, or if they need team builds, or if they want to bring in pizza, things like that. So we give them that every quarter. So those kind of go for the staff. And then the assistant managers and managers, they also get bonused based on if they reach their sales and payroll goals. They also get, or the manager gets quarterly bonuses. That's also based on the number of classes that they were sold and what their audit scores were. And then our executive team, they get quarterly bonuses based on if their sales and payrolls, because that way everybody is looking at the sales. So Zach will pull sales every single day and he sends them out to everybody so that they can see where they're at, and that way everybody's working towards the same goal.
Yeehaw, studio owners! Saddle up for success at the 2025 CCSA Annual Convention, happening September 5th through the 8th in Denton, Texas. This year, we're bringing cowboy country theme to the heart of the Fired Arts, and you won't want to miss it. Get ready for an action-packed event featuring over 35 industry classes designed to boost your business, an exhibit hall filled with the latest and greatest from top suppliers, plus social events where you can connect with fellow studio owners. And don't forget the grand finale, a boot scootin' gala and silent auction that'll have you dancing the night away. So dust off your cowboy boots and join us for a weekend of learning, networking, and good old Texas-sized fun. This is an exclusive event you can't afford to miss. Head to ccsaonline.com to reserve your spot at the 2025 CCSA Annual Convention, and we'll see y'all in Denton.
Tell us about these audits.
Okay, so let me talk about some checklists. So, another question that you're like, oh, well, how do you know if they're doing all of these policy and procedures? So we do have a opening and closing checklist. That's on the back of our daily planner, and it's required that they do all of those things, and then they have to sign off on every single one, not just put a checkbox. I want an initial next to each one. So that's for them. We also have a glazing and loading checklist that they do to make sure they haven't forgot anything. So those are checklists. But then we do monthly audits, and you're expected to get an 85% or higher. If you do get an 85%, then you don't get one the next month. Right. But if you, depending on the score of it, depends on, what the ramifications are of, like, if you get like below 70, then there's different ramifications for that. When you get this audit, the audit goes over everything. So even from, is the employee in dress code, to let me look at their party agreements, to are they signing up classes correctly, to what's the glazing and loading look like? Do I see any lines? So it goes over everything. Do the floor, is there dust bunnies? Is there dead flies in your window? It goes over everything.
And who does this?
So Jared does them now, but the district manager used to do them, but I moved him from the district manager because this is a great way, because Jared's position is kind of newer position as of the last couple years. And so now he does them because the district manager reports into him. So it shows him how her stores are doing and how she can better, maybe effectively manage.
Do the stores know these days are coming, or
they do
is
not?
It a surprise?
Surprise!
Yeah, that's fun.
Really?
It's a surprise. And what's interesting is stores have lost like 15 points just from a bad close.
Sure.
So someone decided, I'm not going to sweep and mop, and I'm not going to down stock, and yeah. But they then get a copy of the audit, and then they have 1 week to address all of the infractions that are on there, and then send it back that they were fixed.
Nice.
Now, on a smaller scale, if you have one store, would you do this for each person, would you think? How would you, as a smaller studio?
I would do it on your store.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would totally do it on your store, because it doesn't matter how many stores you have. It's very focused on the policies and procedures that are in place, and each store is treated individually.
It would be really neat if you got like another CCSA member that was kind of like close to you to pop in and do it. I feel like I love that because then that unbiasedness of like, oh no,
Yeah.
it's perfect.
But they don't know what your policies are and procedures,
That's
right?
true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, I like the idea that you're training your staff to not look past the dust bunny in the corner or
That's true.
this one thing out of whack. Because it
Yes.
can be easy to do that. It can be easy to
Well,
get
and I'm not
used
going to
to
lie,
it.
when I go into another studio, it's really hard for me because I did the audits for a while. It's hard for me not just to do this laser red focus and be like, oh my gosh, I
Uh-huh.
can't believe. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Lori, you're not here to do an audit. Yeah.
That's funny.
But then
Yeah.
every month we have a merchandising audit.
Right. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, as you know, the only reason your customers are coming to your store is to buy the stuff off your shelf. It needs to be organized, and we do have a merchandising standards of how things have to be organized. They're not haphazardly put on. They're not double merchandise. Now, this is just the as you wish way, right? If you want to double merchandise in your store, by all means, we don't have the space for that. But the rows need to be nice and tight, not too much space in between, but not too tight to where you can't get something out. They need to be fully stocked, everything pulled forward. They need to be merchandised, tallest to smallest, in groups. So we've got like, your party animals, you've got your mugs. I don't want a mug in a plate section or a mug in over by the snakes or what have yous, right? So it needs to make sense for our customers to be able to shop. And the easier you make it for them, the easier it is, their experience is better.
Do you still
I like
keep
that.
most of your back stock up on the top of the shelves?
We do. We don't have any back stock. It's all
I
up
like
stock.
that. That's nice
And
too
so,
because people see what you have literally. And I was like, oh,
yeah. Oh, can I have that? And people have said that to before. Yeah. But the upstock has to be organized over the correct bay. If you are I would say a store has 7 bays. I don't want the party animals in the top stock above the plates. That doesn't make any sense.
sure.
And what happens if you do that is your staff don't downstock because it's a pain in the butt. Then it's just a vicious cycle. There's a method behind our madness. There really is.
We didn't
Do you
doubt you at
find
all.
do you find it's more successful when you do split up those bays?
What do you
Because I
mean?
have mine all randomly on my shelves and I don't separate that kind of stuff. I just say is that better? Am I doing it wrong? Someone tell me.
You meaning you have
Like
like
all the
snakes with
cups.
platters?
Yeah, I have everything kind of. Do you find that the customers are easier to look at the shelves if things are a little bit more like all cups, all
Organized.
plates, all
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
No. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
imagine if you went into Target and you wanted to buy a shirt, but yet you had diapers next to the shirts. And then you also but all your shirts weren't together, but you also had, socks over here. And you're like, I just want to find a shirt, but the other shirts are over here. It just makes it easier. Like if you wanted to go to Target and buy Barbies, you could go into the Barbie section and all the Barbies are there.
Yeah, we
That's
want to make
true.
it so easy for people to give us money.
Yes.
That's my approach to everything. Like,
Yes,
I
yes,
appreciate
yes.
that.
everything. I feel very inspired. I don't want to keep you too long, but I do want to talk about, let's say we are finally going to get to go on vacation and it's been
Yeah.
so long. Is there anything that you do beforehand? It's a little different because you do have such like strong policies and systems in place, but is there sort of a checklist that you yourself go through before you're able to kind of take a deep breath and actually log off and take the cruise where you don't have any, service or go on, wherever? I want to sit on a beach personally.
I just did that.
Yeah, nice.
Gosh, you know what? That is so hard for me because I think that I have over the years gotten myself to the point where I can do that. And because we have the checklist in place, the managers do, or not the managers, but the staff do a closing email every single day. Everyone's version of checking out is different.
Sure.
So I still check my email every day that I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're sending that closing email every day regardless, or just when you're on vacation?
Every single day, it goes to the manager and it goes to the district manager. The email is opened in the morning so that the opening person can write whatever they may need to in there. And then the closer writes their closing email and then it gets sent off that evening so that we have a little glimpse of what's going on in that store. If there was any potential bad Google reviews that we had an upset customer today. Oh, good to know. But sometimes you can circumvent that by we want their name and all that stuff so that we can call them. I would rather call them on vacation than not because if things fester. So we have the closing emails every single day. And then our managers every single week, they send a weekly recap. and there's specific information that has to be in there. And that just helps us to be able to navigate through things and what's going on, because we do have multiple stores. But it doesn't matter if you have multiple stores or one store. If you're wanting to pull out, you're going to want this information. Send me the weekly recap. Send me the nightly closing checklist. I have a quarterly marketing meeting. Even if it's just you should have a quarterly marketing meeting with yourself, right? You've got to pull figures and go, okay, is what I'm doing working? Because what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result, right?
That's
so
true.
You're like, gosh, I don't know why my Facebook things are not doing well, but I'm just going to keep doing it. Well, they're going to keep not doing well.
Exactly.
You do have to take the opportunity to step back and analyze. And but by the daily closing checklist or closing email, that they analyze that. The weekly email from the managers, they're doing analyzing for you. And then you have the opportunity to get back to them, right? And say, hey, and so you have to teach people how to analyze your business also. So you don't have to do it all by yourself.
Let's say I'm planning a trip in January.
Okay.
Let's say we're going to survive the holiday season. It's going to be the best holiday season we've ever had. Yes. And I'm planning a trip for mid-January. And I don't have nearly these systems in place. Can you give me sort of step one to what is the first thing I could do to get ready to get my staff totally not to bother me as much when I'm on this magical, very earned vacation?
Okay. You don't have systems in place. You know what? I would start with the closing emails, but you have to be specific in what you want to know in those. And then I don't know how long you're going to be gone on this magical vacation.
3 weeks. Why not?
Oh, for the love. Okay.
This is fake, by the way.
Okay. I was supporting you.
I wish. I also don't have any staff, so.
I would say the weekly email from whoever's going to be in charge, because some people don't have managers, but you do have somebody who always wants to be in charge. There always is those people.
That's true.
And so help them help you, right? You're like, hey, these are the things that I want to know while I'm gone. Have them pull together a spreadsheet of your sales. If you don't already have a spreadsheet, I'm telling you, you should be doing one anyway, right? So of every single day, and you need to compare it to prior year and whatnots. But so have them pull that information together. Do you want to know your traffic count? What information do you want to know? If you're gone and you can't pull it, what do you want someone to tell you?
Yeah.
That's what I would
do. Yeah. Wow. I'm feeling ready. I'm excited.
You're not overwhelmed?
I mean, a little, but I also kind of knew some of this was coming. So
I'm excited. I have learned so much and I appreciate your time. I would like to come work for you when I am done with this adventure of owning a studio. I'm just going to come work for you. Or I'm going to have you train my staff sometime. I don't know how to make this happen, but either way.
My staff don't like me training new hires because they don't stay long.
I bet. I would be so scared. I'm not going to lie to you.
Stop it. You would not.
I'd be shaking in my boots.
You would not.
I was just going to say, I cannot begin to thank you for the information that you've already shared. And I think that you should write a book for studio owners. I'd like to purchase the first copy, please. I definitely think that you are so knowledgeable and I appreciate your brain and taking the time to share that with other owners. Amy, did you have anything else that you'd like to ask?
No, I just kind of want to mirror that and say, you don't have to be this open. You don't have to be this sharing. And it's really special that you are because, some people see everything as competition. And I'm very grateful that you are so willing to talk pretty freely about a lot of the things that make you so successful. So I really appreciate
if you're not going to open in Arizona, I don't mind.
There you go. So why don't you come open in Atlanta? No?
In Pennsylvania.
Okay. No. Worth the shot, but I know somebody really good that can run it for you.
Yeah.
Did you think of one of those shock value questions that you ask for your training?
Oh gosh, I was so busy just rambling on about things. Okay, so let's see that you have a customer that comes in and you say, welcome to As You Wish. What brings you in today? Because we never ask yes or no questions, right? Can I help you? That's always a no. We don't ask that question. What brings you in today? Well, I think that I'm here to paint a gift. Great. Who are you painting a gift for? Right. So I'm teaching them how to ask all of these questions. Okay. And then they say, well, I'm painting a gift for my grandma. What does your grandma like? Well, you know what? She really loves her tea. She's from England and she really loves her tea. Great. Then I ask them, what are you going to suggest to them? And they say, oh, probably a teacup. I'm like, no, 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 no. We start with the teapot. One, it's more expensive because then she also needs a teacup to go with that. So then you can say for your next birthday or your next gift that you give grandma, first you paint her the teapot. Now you have solved the problem for them for her next several birthdays or whatever of coming in and painting a cup.
Yeah, the building on like that is so smart.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation, right? I think that's what's
It
so
is.
special about it. It's not just like, well, the teapot, obviously. You
Yes.
start saying, oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool that she likes tea. You're
Yeah,
leading
yeah,
her
yeah.
over to it.
So anyway, those are little.
It's amazing.
Love
make
it.
smooth.
Thank you so much for being here with us, sharing your brain. I am ready to dive into teaching my staff, and I hope that everyone has time to go make some systems, go and do these checklists so that you can go have a vacation for 3 weeks with Amy on the beach.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Send
Just don't
pictures
talk to
of
me.
your pictures. Yes.
We'll be reading on the beach, no talking. No, I'm tired.
Hopefully you're reading a book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff.
Well, no, because you told me what it was about. So I
It
don't have
is.
to. I can pick another book.
But I can't begin to tell you how many vacations I've been reading business books.
One business book for every 2 fun books, I say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so
All right,
much
guys.
for listening. And Lori, again, thank you for being here. And Chris,
You're
again,
welcome.
I'll see you in the next one. Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Glazed Over is brought to you by the CCSA, the Contemporary Ceramic Studios Association. Thank you to our moderators, Amy Williams and Christine Steele. Intro and outro music by Scott Lester. Executive production by Louise Blazucki. Learn more about the CCSA at ccsaonline.com.